Hey guys, so I wanted to do a video where I would talk about all my records and explain how I got each one and why I got each one and what it means to me. So, a couple of years ago, I noticed that I was getting a lot of records, and ironically enough, I did not have a record player like at all. So, I ordered one from Target, and then it sat in my box for 2 years almost. The reason is my room was a huge mess, still is. See that dust? Those cobwebs? They don't come cheap, baby. But, I started cleaning out my room. Let me do a little bit of that right now. And it got to the point where I finally had room for this. And I got all my records out of the closet. They're now in this handy little storage case. Uh, and I started piling them up and stacking them up. And I even went to Target and I got a whole bunch more of them. Now, the reason I started getting records is because one of my friend's father used to own a record store, and he passed away. And my friend Patrick, thank you, let me have a few of the records. And then I was like buying a couple of records from people who had them for sale and would sell them autographed. So this is first of all, this is my Kuze Deluxe. Let me show you the insides. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am, as David Bowie would put it. This is from Crossley. Is that how you say it? Let's say it's Crossley. All right, let's close this so it doesn't get damaged, and go to the actual subject of my on the record podcast. Okay, so record number one, AC/DC, Back in Black. Oh, I store my records in alphabetical order because I am that kind of dork. So this is actually one of my Target records. When I went on my run to Target, my original plan was just to buy one record. We'll talk about that later. But I was like, you know what? First, I couldn't find that one record I wanted. That's a hint of what it was. Uh, and then I was like, you know what? This one's really good, and this one's really good, and I gotta get one of these, and I gotta fill out my collection so I have a little bit of everybody I really like. This record I got because to me AC/DC is the ultimate like classic heavy-ish rock band. A lot of people would say it's Led Zeppelin. A lot of people will say like I don't know, maybe Cream or Metallica but this to me is like the ultimate like just fun rock out. The good version of Kiss, basically, even though they're nothing like Kiss in many ways, because one, they're really good at their instruments, and two, they have actual, how do I put this? Uh, their tracks are crafted not to be the representation of rock and roll, but they are actual total classic rock and roll. So this is a beautiful record, by the way, to me, because it's all black, just like a record should be, and it goes really well with my next record, which is also part of my Target run, the Beatles' White Album. Now, I grew up hating the Beatles. They seem to me like those guys who are all over the place and way. Didn't really understand the Beatles. To me, they were this kind of like the ultimate moralist band. What I didn't realize is Beatles were one of the very few bands that doesn't primarily record romantic music. You know that Violent Femmes song, "Do you like American music?" Well, to me, American music is very much the music of, hey, let's go to the prom together, and hey, I love you, so what am I so afraid of? Well, the Beatles are not that. And the Beatles were one of the first bands to actually write songs about not that. Why did they write those songs? Because they met this guy. But before we get to him, a few more words about why I like the White Album. It's one of my 3 favorite Beatles albums. It has the best of Paul McCartney, in my opinion, back in the USSR. Obla-dee, obla-da, life goes on, brah. Also has some of the best Lennon tracks: the very tender Julia, the sarcastic Bungalow Bill, the complicated, overly complicated Revolution Number 9. Just a very rich selection of tracks. Play it a couple of times. No matter what mood you're in, you'll find a track on here to fit this mood. This is why, to me, it's such a great album. But I'm gonna move on to my favorite album by my favorite artist. I don't have a favorite like number one per se, because to me, different albums for different moods. But if I had to pick the album, it would be Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. Uh, this is one of the records I got off Patrick. Thank you again if you're listening, if you ever listen to this. Uh, so this is like the second phase somber Bob Dylan of the 70s. It has some of the most mature relationship tracks that you'll ever hear. Um, the Tangle Apple Blue, which is, what was it that Jacob Dylan said? A song that took him a few minutes to write and several years to live. I'm paraphrasing that really badly. Forgive me. Um, it has the song which started my love of Bob Dylan, namely, yeah, doesn't have a track listing. I don't like that. Uh, what's it called? The second track on this album. I'm really embarrassed to say I don't remember what it's called. Walk together in the park when the evening sky. Twist of Fate. Simple Twist of Fate. But hearing that song, the Circuit City giveaway, that's how long ago it was, is what started my love of Bob Dylan. I would say my number one artist, my number one album, my number one choice for what album I would want to have is this guy. So it has Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. It has the Gonna Miss You When You Go. Gosh, I'm really blanking on the name of the tracks. I Saw Love Go By My Door. Never been so close before. Yeah, the one Miley Cyrus covers beautifully. Look it up. Great track. So I'm gonna put this guy back now. It slipped out, so I'm gonna put the camera down very briefly. Hey, look at this. I'm on to my next one. So this is Experience Hendrix. Very underrated lyricist. Very underrated vocalist. Had to get this because I just recently watched the Monterey Festival DVD in 3 discs available from Netflix, which has one of his most seminal performances. Dylan Hendrix was the ultimate live performer. Hendrix was the ultimate showman because every single gesture he did on stage was carry over from the music he was playing at the time. There's this thing where the music kind of spunks up and then he, of course, shoots out his arm just the right way to match the tune that he's playing. And I'm not even going to bring up the whole, play a guitar behind your back and then burn it. Forget that. That's not even the best part to me of Hendrix. It was his movement on stage, the way he felt every track with every bone of his body, the way each track meant something to him and wasn't just a cool little guitar riff to show off. This has all the best Hendrix tracks except Wild Thing, but I can live without Wild Thing because it says Purple Haze, it says one of my favorites, Crosstown Traffic, the beautiful ballad of Angel, and the Wind Cries Mary. See, I'm doing much better on Hendrix track names than I am on Dylan track names. Foxy, Fire. Basically, you will pretty much find your favorite Hendrix track on here. Another classic Dylan, Free William Bob Dylan. Also got it from Patrick. This record is worth getting just for the cover. Alyssa, can you leave now, please? Sorry.
Okay.
My daughter enters at the worst moment. Sorry, guys. To keep professional, I had to kick her out. I went on a trip to New York a while back, where I actually went to this exact spot and took a picture with a girl on it. Not my current wife, completely different woman, Aisha. Uh, just made sense. This is one of the Dylan's classic acoustic albums, probably his best acoustic album. Certainly the most popular acoustic album of his. But it's not all about that. This album to me has to be gotten because of that, not because of anything that's on it. This has to, well, because of the cover and because of how seminal it was at the time. All right, let's go to the next one. God said to Abraham, buy this album. Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited, the third of the Patrick albums. This album is the first Bob Dylan album that I got. It has some of his best electric tracks. It has, let's see, what's there? Tombstone Blues. It has the title track. Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. It's my favorite cover of Bob Dylan album because he just looks so Bob Dylan-ish on this in terms of his face expression. It has like a Rolling Stone, of course, voted by Rolling Stone, ironically enough, as the most popular, best track of the past, was it 40 years at that time? But my favorite track on here is the acoustic Desolation Row, even though this is a seminal electric Bob Dylan album. I like the acoustic track best. It just has some of his best lyrics. Let's keep going. Alright. Another seminal track. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. What would a record collection be without a album from the genre that made records, gave reason for existence, blues? I can't explain what this album means because it's such it's kind of like, if you get it, you get it. Blues I like because it has no vocals in this case. There's blues, and it kind of, you get it by the feeling of the music, which is of course how things should be. Yeah, you hear some more of my kids and my wife. Sorry about that. So I saw this record, I'm like, of course. I saw this record at Target, I was like, of course. It's like such a Hall of Fame of music record. Alright, let's go to the next one. So, as I was looking for which record to get, the record I wanted to get at Target, first I couldn't find it. And so then I saw this. I was like, you know what? If I don't get this record, the record I want, I'll get this one. One of the few records I got before ever owning the album. One of kind of those like classic, awesome representation of the genre from which it is, which is, I would say, R&B with some rap too. It's Education of Lauryn Hill. That thing, doo-wop. Lots of great tracks. Let's see. Here. Everything is Everything. Doo-wop. Lost Ones. I think this album I became familiar with back in the Napster era. I downloaded a few of those tracks. Was it on iTunes? Not sure anymore. Anyway, great album. Much like the Beatles, Lauryn Hill is one of those people whose music transcends what the genre is usually all about. Let's go to the next one. Mother, Mother, Can You Hear Me? One of the two autographed albums I got this at the Tracy Bonham uh, concert, which was in a very small venue in Northern Virginia. She signed it to me, blah blah blah. This is her modern version of the songs from her first album. Mother, Mother, Navy Beam, my favorite. Where is it? The one. Yeah, and like her first album, which was mostly guitar, this one is more of a piano kind of thing. Not as much violin, which is a shame because I love violin. Most underrated instrument for rock tracks. In fact, the reason I got this, so this is an interesting story. So I was watching a video of another 70s Bob Dylan track, which is just the album Desire, and it was done by the Pierces, who was really into back in 2000s. And there was Tracy Bonham suddenly saying, I'll be playing the part of Scarlett Rivera on this track. Scarlett Rivera is the violinist on Desire, for those who don't know, and on the Rolling Thunder review. I was like, that's really cool. One, it's cool because I love Scarlett Rivera on those albums. And two, because I didn't know Tracy Bonham was a violinist back when I watched that. Had to get it. Had to get into her a little more after that. Alright, let's go to the next level. This is the one Bob Dylan album I probably wouldn't put in my top 3 or 4. Nashville Skyline. The one time Bob Dylan actually tried to sing in his regular voice. A mild, pleasant baritone. The whole album was part of Bob Dylan's attempt to get away from his fans, get away from his mass popularity. Hard to explain why I got this because I don't remember, but my guess is I liked this picture and I liked the high Nashville thing. And I'm very into outdoor stuff, and that's what I associate country and Nashville with. Fortunately, don't have a country album in my collection yet. We'll fix that soon. This is the end, completes our Patrick's Bob Dylan albums portion of this, and brings me into a record I got in Rockville at a video store, at a record store, or rather old style kind of music store, with my friend Alex, who I know will be watching this because he said he would. Alex, if you're not watching this, you're a bitch. I got this also at the time where I didn't have a record player. I was kind of like depressed at the time. I was like, Alex, why am I getting this? I will never play it. And Alex was like, oh, look at this. You get a collection album. Well, not only is it a collector's item, but also it's a great album. Probably the most seminal of David Bowie's album, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. Bowie is very underrated for his music. Most people kind of think of him as a concept artist. I think that's a mistake. Let's look at these tracks if you can see them through the plastic cover. It has 5 Years, very underrated track. Starman, Lady Stardust, Rock and Roll Suicide, Moon Age Daydream, which just kicks ass King. On to Yourself, another one of those. It Ain't Easy, which is a cover. Suffragette City, wham bam, thank you, man. And of course, Ziggy Stardust, the title track, sort of the title track, because the album is actually called Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. So glad I got this. Thank you, Alex, for cheering me on when I got it. Let's go on to the next one. And this is the Target, the reason for the Target run. First time I wanted to get. One of the most seminal albums. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I hope that you enjoy the show. I'm gonna get so much hate over my singing. And I should, because I suck at it. So, this is my first Beatles purchase, both as a record and as a CD. What CD I got this in California on my one trip to Hollywood. Hard to pick a favorite of these tracks. Being for the Band of Mr. Kite was the one I liked right away. Oh no, wait, I do have a classic favorite. My favorite Beatles song, A Day in the Life. Sorry, it's hard to see with all this glass. The final track, my favorite Beatles song. Also, When I'm 64, my favorite McCartney song, probably. It's the one McCartney song that to me sounds like a self-mockery, but it's not. Like, none of that. That's such a Lennon sentiment. But it's kind of a mockery of how much do we really get from love. Kind of like the same way William Cullen's Hallelujah is a mockery of that. This kind of asks, you know what, ultimately this is just about kind of having a partner in the old age. That's all music is about. What else should we say about this? That's Ringo, my favorite Beatles, singing here on A Little Help from My Friends. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which Lennon still claims is not about LSD. Maybe. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Oh, Good Morning, Good Morning. That's another one I really like. And hearing my wife putting my kids to sleep and they're protesting. This brings us to the second autographed album I have. And probably the least well-known album of all I have, which is H.G. Hardeg's Sundowner. True story. This has to do with Taco Bell. You probably wondering, who the hell is H.G. Hardegg? Who the hell is H.G. Hardegg, as Vince McMahon would say. Well, there was this beautiful girl in Taco Bell commercial for some form of it. And for those of you who might remember, it's this commercial where like the guy is dreaming about the girl and the girl is dreaming about whatever Taco Bell food he's eating. Okay, actually, a really good album. But the girl, I tracked her and I found out she also makes music. Her name is Mary Roth. She writes on the alter ego. You know what? I have to correct myself. This is probably a country album, which breaks a lie out of I don't have a country album. But this is not a seminal country album. It's just a really good one. Found this girl on Twitter, messaged her and said, "Hey, I'll buy your record if you autograph it." This probably played a key role in me buying a record player because this was kind of one of those things that I was like, you know what? I'm starting to get a lot of records at this point. This was like around mid-2000 teens. Yeah, good album. Again, it's called Sundowner by H.G. Hardegg, or as you might know her at this point as the girl from the Taco Bell commercial. She's a very cool lady. I really enjoyed talking to her. Sundowner, H.G. Hardegg. Let's go to the next one. Sorry for the long break. This is my next to last record. Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino by one of my 5 favorite artists. So I don't have a good answer as to what my favorites are until, rather, I didn't have a good answer for who my top 5 are, which is a question my coworker Johnny Callahan asked me at one point. And I would have to say the answer is Beatles, Bob Dylan, Sex Pistols, who I don't have anything yet by in this collection, Nirvana, who I don't have yet anything by either, and finally the Arctic Monkeys. Now, the reason I like you might notice this pattern, is they don't write romantic music. I don't have a problem with romantic music. Uh, but to me, the Arctic Monkeys kind of, even when they do write romantic music, they kind of look at it as kind of a, what does my romance tell me about the world and about me as a person? Which I think is a very interesting way to approach your feelings. AM, my favorite album. This one I got at the concert in DC at the Anthem last year, I think, or roughly around last year, a couple of years ago, so probably 2018. Look at that, Mr. Alex Turner. So many great tracks. My favorite one is this one, probably. The Ultra Cheese. It's kind of a mockery of your own feelings, which is the kind of thing I'm really into. And eventually, like the way Arctic Monkeys often do, it kind of comes out to say, you know what, I'm mocking them, but ultimately it's alright. My tendency to kind of, it talks about human and a cynical tendency to mock our feelings, but it ultimately comes back to saying, you know what, my feelings are alright. Beautiful record. Carried it all the way through the metro, tenderly grasping it as I was afraid that I was not gonna catch the last train on the green track or the red track, but I did, and brought this home, and here I am, clutching this very happily. Tranquility Base, Hotel and Casino, concept album, but a lot of great tracks on it, aside from the concept. Wouldn't work. Yeah, the idea was kind of Tranquility Base. It was I think either was the site of the moon landing or a place where they were looking at, where the place from which they were guiding the moon landing on Earth. I think it's the latter, or the former. But Hotel and Casino kind of turns it into a place in the Vegas track. And it's also very much a comment on the Trump election. There's a track here called Golden Trunks. It says the leader of the free world reminds you of a wrestler in the golden trunks, which of course he does. Arctic Monkeys, probably the top current lyricist. Look at that. Look at that. How beautiful that looks. Beautiful record. And finally, very appropriately, we come to the one album which probably was the first one I ever got, and which I'm really not sure where I got. Sublime, 40 Ounce to Freedom. Love it growing up. I believe I got this album first. My first record. Well, my first record in US. Because I got some in Russia too. Oh. My belief is that I got this record. See? Here's some bizarre info exactly where I got it. I believe I got this record in a Kenland store. Me and my friend Chris Cartwright, noticing the theme here? Almost all the albums I'm talking about had to do with social events. That's ultimately what I think music does, is it brings people together. This song probably, me and my friend Chris Cartwright in their late 90s went to Kentlands on a bus because neither one of us drove back then. And we got, that was in Kentlands. Think of it just think of this. This is back when Kentlands was very much mom and pop stores or other independent stores. And we got we went into this little record store, little music store they had in there, independent music store. And I saw this and I was like, hey, I love Sublime. Let me get this. I think. I can't think of anywhere else where I would get this. And this is exactly at the point where I would be like, hey, let me get it. Let me spend money on stuff I'm not sure how I'm going to use yet. 40 Ounce of Freedom, limited edition. When she gets a hold of me. Badfish, 40 Ounce of Freedom. Let's Go Get Stoned. Scarlet Begonias, which is a Grateful Dead cover. Chica Mi Tipo. kind of Spanish. What happened? KRS-One, another classic track. All right, so we close uh, this video cast with my what I think. Not sure, it was either this or the Dylan, but I think this was the first record I got. Pretty sure this was the first record I got. Sublime, 40 Ounce to Freedom, doesn't have all the tracks that the CD version does, so I'm not sure if this was kind of their hey, let's get our record published, released kind of thing, which so they weren't trying to get everything, every track they had. And that's kind of, that's one thing I gotta say about the records is I'm really tired of flipping them every 5 tracks, but that's kind of part of the charm. I believe music is not meant to give you instant gratification. It's meant to be a little bit of work. It's meant to be fragile rather than permanent. Records break easily. So far, haven't broken anything. Thank God. I was very paranoid about breaking something. And I think that's about it. Hope I never break a record, but if I do, easy enough to replace. Alright, guys. Follow, like, and comment. Hopefully, this will become a permanent thing. At least one person, Alex, promised to watch this. Hey, and so that's pretty much, in many ways, this has been a retrospective of not just my record collection, but also my my life for the past 20 years, the past 25 years. See you guys.